The U.S.'s attempt will not succeed. The Taiwan question is at the core of China's core interests and the first red line that cannot be crossed. Stop arming Taiwan at once. China will take effective and strong measures to safeguard national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity.
Allies Japan and the US have been getting under China's nerves over the past few days. First, on December 17th, the US announced a massive $10 billion arms sale to Taiwan, and on December 27th, Japan's cabinet approved a record $58 billion defense budget. Are all these developments in the Pacific beginning to resemble a coordinated Deter China campaign? However, China has begun striking back where it hurts most, and in a potentially brutal manner. Beijing has fired back at Washington, and the target wasn't missiles, it was people, money, and access. On December 26th, China's foreign ministry imposed sanctions on 20 U.S. defense firms and 10 executives following the U.S. announcement of large-scale arms sales to Taiwan. According to China's foreign ministry, the sanctions involve freezing the assets of targeted companies in China and prohibiting individuals and organizations from doing business with them. The sanctioned entities include Northrop Grumman Systems Corporation, L3 Harris Maritime Services, and Boeing's operations in St. Louis, while Anduril Industries founder Palmer Luckey is among the executives affected. Those sanctioned are barred from entering China, and any assets they hold in the country have been frozen. The ministry said on Friday that the measures target 10 individuals and 20 U.S. firms, including Boeing's production hub in St. Louis, Missouri, effectively blocking Chinese entities from dealing with them. While a pleased Taiwan thanked the Trump administration for announcing a second military sale, China reacted angrily to the proposed U.S. arms sale worth over $10 billion, which would be the largest such package if approved by Congress. Beijing, which claims Taiwan as its own, warned that the deal crosses a major red line in China-U.S. relations. The ministry also cautioned that companies involved would pay the price and urged Washington to halt what it called dangerous moves of arming Taiwan.
The U.S. announcement of selling advanced weapons to Taiwan seriously violates the One China principle and the three China-U.S. joint communiques, undermine China's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity, disrupt peace and stability across the strait, and sends a seriously wrong message to Taiwan independent separatist forces. China strongly opposes and condemns this. The separatist forces in Taiwan has pursued independence agenda and resisted reunification through military build-up. They have squandered the people's money to buy weapons and would not flinch at turning Taiwan into a power keg. This will not change the inevitable failure of Taiwan independence and will only push the Taiwan Strait to the danger of war. The U.S.'s attempt will not succeed. The Taiwan question is at the core of China's core interests and the first red line that cannot be crossed. No one should underestimate the strong will and capability of the Chinese government and people in safeguarding national sovereignty and territorial integrity. China urges the U.S. to abide by the One China principle and the three China-U.S. joint communiques, act on the serious commitments made by U.S. leaders, stop arming Taiwan at once. China will take effective and strong measures to safeguard national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity.
Taiwan remains one of the most sensitive issues in U.S.-China relations, and analysts warn it could escalate into a direct military confrontation between the two powers. In recent years, China has significantly stepped up military activity around the island, regularly deploying warships and fighter jets in coordinated drills across Taiwan's airspace and surrounding waters. But even as China sounds the alarm, under U.S. federal law, Washington is required to help Taiwan maintain its self-defense, an obligation that has increasingly angered Beijing. Relations between the two countries are already tense over trade, technology, and human rights, and U.S. arms sales to Taiwan remain a major flashpoint. The package consists of 8 arms deals, including 420 Army tactical missile systems, similar to those supplied to Ukraine under the Biden administration to counter Russia's invasion. China has long asserted sovereignty over democratically governed Taiwan and has never ruled out using force to bring the island under its control, claims that Taiwan's government firmly rejects. This raises the question, why is Trump stepping into the decades-old China-Taiwan dispute? Is Trump's peacemaker side working extra hours? The move could come at a cost, potentially straining the U.S.-China relations and jeopardizing Beijing's pledge to cooperate on cracking down on fentanyl. Post his meeting with the Chinese president in South Korea in October, Trump halved the tariffs on Chinese goods imposed as a punishment over the flow of fentanyl to 10%. He also said he aims to eliminate all fentanyl-related tariffs on China.
There's a lot of things, a lot of good things happen, but unfortunately when it's developed a certain way, a lot of bad things happen. Because a lot of people would say, well, why is it made? I mean, it's made for a lot of good purposes, but it also has some very bad purposes when you design it a certain way, and people can take it and design it. So China's working very hard on that. I really believe that, and they have an incentive. I'd love to get rid of the extra 10%. I put a 20% penalty on. I had a great conversation about it with President Xi yesterday, and I'd love to get rid of the other. As soon as we see that, we'll get rid of the other 10%. Other than that, we haven't cut the tariffs at all with China. But we're going to have a great relationship with them, I think, for a long period of time. If we have a smart president, we'll have a great relationship. If we don't have a smart president, which is also a very strong possibility, then we won't have a great relationship. But China is, the meeting with China was incredible. The meeting with Japan, incredible. And the meeting with South Korea, likewise, incredible, all of them. And trillions of dollars are coming back to our country because of those meetings. And we have others planned with other countries, but those are big ones. And the meeting with China was one that everybody wanted. The meeting with the new prime minister, who's fantastic, of Japan, could not have gone better. We've worked out our deal. And South Korea, you saw the way we were treated. Our country's respected again. When they treat me with that kind of respect, they're treating our country with that kind of respect, which is much more important. And our country is respected again.
Following Trump's upbeat trade talks with Xi, FBI Director Kash Patel made a low-profile visit to China to hold discussions on the fentanyl crisis, law enforcement cooperation, and broader diplomatic issues. At a press briefing on November 12th, the FBI chief said Beijing had agreed to a plan to curb the flow of fentanyl-related chemicals as part of an agreement reached with the Trump administration to tackle the deadly opioid trade.
We have some tremendous news thanks to President Donald J. Trump once again for the American people. As soon as the President of the United States took office, he issued a mandate to rid America of the scourge that is fentanyl, a drug that has killed hundreds of thousands of Americans. Thanks to his leadership and direct engagements with China, we set up a framework to execute that mission 8 months ago. Attorney General Bondi immediately thereafter took steps to engage her counterpart in China at the Ministry of Public Security. Pursuant to their direct discussions, as the FBI director designated to run counterpoint on this, along with the Secretary of State Rubio and Ambassador Perdue and the team here at the White House, we set forward a path to implement the policy needed to crush the plague of fentanyl. Deputy Attorney General Blanche and our teams have been hard at work ever since, ultimately culminating in my trip to Beijing last week. This was only possible due to President Trump's historic engagement with President Xi just a few short weeks ago that set the stage for today's announcement. At that meeting, the leaders reached an agreement. But just to put this in frame for the American people, a reminder here that nearly 100,000 people died of fentanyl overdoses just last year alone. Here, this year, under this president, the FBI has seized 1,900 kilograms of fentanyl so far. That is a 31% increase from the same time period last year. To put it in perspective, that's enough fentanyl to kill 127 million Americans. Fentanyl precursors are what makes up fentanyl. While we, the interagency, the Department of Justice, have been fighting hard To seize and stop drug traffickers, we must attack fentanyl precursors, the ingredients necessary to make this lethal drug. That was the sole purpose of my trip to China, to eliminate these precursors. And if successful, we would suffocate the drug trafficking organization's ability to manufacture fentanyl in places like Mexico. This was the first time an FBI director has been to China in over a decade and received the audience with his counterpart to address this matter directly. And again, thanks to President Trump's direct engagement with President Xi, the government of China committed fully to my engagement there on the ground in Beijing at a level never seen before. While at Ministry of Public Security headquarters, I met with my counterpart at MPS, where the Chinese government agreed on a plan to stop fentanyl precursors. What does that mean? The People's Republic of China has fully designated and listed all 13 precursors utilized to make fentanyl. Furthermore, they have agreed to control 7 chemical subsidiaries that are also utilized to produce this lethal drug. Effective immediately, essentially, President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. These substances are now banned, and they will no longer be utilized by the Mexican drug trafficking organizations or any other DTOs around the world to make this drug. This historic achievement has saved tens of thousands of lives. This historic achievement would not have been possible without the tremendous team of President Trump, the Attorney General, the Department of Justice, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and Ambassador Perdue in China, whose ground-level engagements were imperative to achieving this result. This is yet another example of how President Trump defends the American people, provides security for the American people, and puts the American people first. This is a historic first-in-its-kind achievement by any president to stop the scourge of fentanyl, and it should be championed by every single American. This achievement will save lives. We are thankful for President Trump's steadfast leadership, and this FBI will fearlessly follow in his footsteps to ensure that this mission of safeguarding the American public is achieved every single day. Thank you.